this course is setting you up for success. This is what the industry is moving towards. This is what the industry is becoming.
Hello and welcome to our season finale of the Unmanned podcast powered by USI. This is part 2 of our short series diving in with our graduates. Over the past 20 plus episodes, we've explored multiple facets of drone operations, from utility sector to STEM training, all the way to today's episode on delivery. We're sitting down with Damarius Maxwell, a flight monitor for Amazon's Prime Air, and of course, an alumnus of USI. We will learn about Prime Air and drone delivery and the safety-first approach that they have. USI is very proud of Damarius, just like Adrian and all of our alums, and I can't wait for you to hear from him. Let's go. Hey Damarius, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. And yourself?
Awesome, I'm doing great. Getting ready for Thanksgiving and kind of the holiday season. I don't know about how you do it, but in my house, I start Christmas music right after that turkey's eaten. You know, I'm a Christmas fan, and I love having those jams on. So I'm looking forward to next week. How about you?
I'm a Christmas fan as well. Typically, I get the jams rolling right after, if not right before Halloween.
Oh, okay.
only in the car.
The Unmanned podcast and the audience is probably really excited to hear about what you're doing today and kind of a bit about your past. So why don't you tell the audience about who you are, who's Damarius, where you're from, what you did in life to bring you to where you are today as a flight monitor at Amazon Prime Air.
A little bit about myself. First off, my name is Damarius Maxwell. I am a Orlando, Florida native, born and raised. Well, I guess I'm not a native anymore since I'm not living there. But yeah, Orlando, Florida through and through. I had picked up an interest in the unmanned systems back when I was in high school. It's a crazy story. I don't know if we want to talk about this now or talk about this later, but with me starting out with USI before USI became what it is today, back in my high school program, I was involved with I was dual enrolled with USI and Embry-Riddle.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I was in that program, took it, and then after doing that, shortly after I graduated, joined the Air Force. Air Force took me to Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, Georgia, and I was there for about 5 years. Once I got to that base, that passion was still burning in me to do something SUAS or UAS related. So as soon as I get to my unit, I asked our Chief Master Sergeant at E9, "Hey, sir, how do I get into this program?" He's like, "Well, you're asking the right questions. I'm going to put you in contact with the individual um, to orchestrate that for you, get you involved in that training." So while I was in the Air Force, I was flying, additionally to being security forces, I was flying aircraft like the RQ-11 Bravo, Skydio, X-10, and then also Puma. Although I wasn't certified, I was able to closely follow along with my peers while they were operating the Puma aircraft. But those are some of the aircraft that I was able to fly and experience while in. And then shortly after the Air Force, I transitioned out into the Skill Bridge program.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, small world. I actually ended up finding USI on the SkillBridge website. I didn't know at the time that USI was the same program that I was involved with when I was back in high school. So I use USI in order to basically kind of get spun up on things that are happening in the commercial space. Got my training for my Part 107, and then I was pushed by not only Josh Odes, but Michelle Dina. I was pushed to, I was looking for work. I was hungry, going from one transition to another. And Michelle Dina brought up to me that commercial UAV would be a great opportunity for me to go out there and network. I went out there, and then the job that I had before this with the drone OEM company, it all happened based off of a conversation at a cocktail mixer, I guess. But fortunately, to be in that position, because I took Michelle's advice and actually decided to make it for commercial UAV.
And quickly, just because I wasn't aware of this, so you use drones as a SP, like there, it was in support of the policing in the Air Force.
Yes. So using it as a support when it comes to policing. So whether that's base security, responding to any incidents, any disaster relief incidents, as well as deployed locations, right? Deployed environments.
Yeah.
Safety and security is a big factor. When you are in those environments, so ISR purpose is making sure that troop movements and that we were just protected at all times.
I was in the Army for a bit, and sure, hopefully the audience knows that too. But we have a completely separate, drone units. So like our MPs wouldn't use drones, at least when I was in. Things might have changed now. But then there are drones at the infantry level, so a soldier can throw a drone up and use it for some reconnaissance or other types of strategic things. So I never thought of the military police using drones, and that's just an interesting thing to hear from you. So your kind of interest in drones was really early, and it was sparked by what? You were just always kind of an aviation buff, or what kind of gave you that initial exposure?
Somewhat an aviation buff. Like I used to like planes a lot. I had a small, very, very, very short desire to be a pilot. Then I
Okay.
realized to go into that route, and then shortly after, I was like, okay, this is. I'll stick. I'll move away from the pilot side. Maybe unmanned piloting is more so in my realm.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, like the little. If you ever went to the mall and you would see those little helicopters that they would have flying around, I always
Yeah.
wanted had one at one point. Couldn't get it to fly for anything, and that just kind of beat me up. So I was like, I'm gonna learn this at some point.
You never
Yeah,
let it. You never let it defeat you. You're like, you know
I
what?
did.
I'm gonna fly this helicopter.
So that's what drove my interest in um I guess UAS or just the drone industry or aviation. And then also again I wanted to be a pilot, like competitively. Like I had friends like back in high school in the same program. One of my good friends, he's now a commissioned officer in the Air Force flying KC-135, so the
Oh,
air
okay.
in-flight
Nice.
fueling tankers.
Yeah.
Um, he had his private pilot's license at 16. He was good with the drone stuff, and I was like, man, I gotta, I can't get left behind. So it was like a friendly competition thing. So
No, it's good.
kind of pushed me into it a little bit more.
Before joining the program, before starting it, what did you think your goal was, and how did you see, drones fitting in your civilian, life? Did you know you would be able to make a career out of it, or were you kind of like, I'm hoping, and like, what were kind of your goals going into the program?
Coming into USI, seeing that USI was kind of on the commercial side of things, like becoming an industry standard, right? It showed me that there was a possibility for it to be a career um, outside of the contracting realm of things or side of things. So I actually took the program with the hopes of being steered in the right direction um, to finding a commercial job on stateside at least. And again, those hopes were actually fulfilled or met. I guess this course is setting you up for success. This is what the industry is moving towards. This is what the industry is becoming.
Yeah.
With the UAS industry being something that's still fairly new, still in its infancy, right? Um, what a lot of companies and organizations are looking for is are pilots who are trained to a standard, right? And not just trained to a standard, but trained to not only meet but exceed that standard. People who have SOPs already in place, and if they don't have those SOPs in place already, they can implement it into the company that they're joining.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was pushed into the right direction as far as, hey, we know that this company may be looking for somebody with your background, your expertise, and then this training that you're receiving from us complements the experience that you already have.
Trying to find that foothold into the civilian workforce is a bit of a learning curve for folks like you and I, and trying to find where we fit and what we want to do is it's a little murky. So I too found myself in the drone space after getting out as a crewed aviator into that drone space, and it was a weird kind of series of events that took me into prime air where you're at right now. So that was interesting back way back when. But let's talk about the course itself too, and some of the training that you received. What would you say is some of the most valuable training that you got while at USI? Because you did say something else that was interesting, which is it's not a rubber stamp. It's not like you pay money and we just give you this certificate and you go on your way. It is challenging. It is a bit of you have to devote time to it. It's legitimate college level curriculum, and I think I want our audience to appreciate that and hear it from somebody that's taken it. What were some of the best parts that were most valuable to you?
CRM, right? So you got the crew resource management, right? And that's actually something that translates um, pretty much laterally into my job right now, into the roles and the functionality that I do on a daily. One, you're having to make sure that you are disseminating information properly, you're communicating information properly, and then also there's times where when it comes to communication, right? We go into I'm safe, right? There may be conditions that a pilot or an individual that is a part of your crew may not be feeling, or they may not be at this standard. So teaching I'm safe and diving into that, so that way somebody can make a great judgment call on, okay, am I at the standard able to operate today?
So you got that. So you got some risk assessment, some crew resource management tools out of the course, and you're bringing that over to your role at Prime Air and at the OEM that you worked for prior to that. But it isn't always, super fluid. I mean, there may be some gaps. And so what gaps did you notice? What things were missing from your classroom into real world operations, and how did you solve those gaps?
People, right? Again, we go into crew resource management, but we also talk about some of the attitudes that individuals can have, right? We talk about, whether that's, somebody having a macho man attitude where, they believe they know it all and things are all right. So you can learn about these things in the book, but once you actually meet these people, learning how to not only combat these situations, but you don't want to come at it in an aggressive manner, because I feel like, again, people being humans, some people might not perceive that or receive that information well if you come at them in a certain way. So you have to not only learn how to combat it, but diffuse those situations and turn those into a teachable moment or a teachable lesson. And so I would just say, again, it's the people. So you can read about it, but until you experience it firsthand, that for me was the only gap that I would say I dealt with.
Interesting, because I can see how that would be a gap, because you're going kind of from an insulated situation where you're learning and you're educating yourself, looking at the tools and the simulations and that we have and things like that, but you're not actually working in a crew environment, with multiple folks and different attitudes and different personalities. And I could see how that would be a challenge coming from the schoolhouse into your work environment and trying to have an efficient crew, a safe and efficient crew, and it takes different approaches for different folks. So that's a good call out. Speaking on kind of what you're doing with those crew members and those associates over there at Amazon, can you kind of talk us high level? What's your typical, you showed up for work and you're signing in for the day, and what does that look like?
So we're going to make sure that our operating area is clean, safe, and secure. That's one thing. After going into that, some of my roles as the actual pilot, I'm going to then go ahead and make sure that we're good as far as weather for the day, NOTAMs are filed, airspace, things like that. Our COA is good to go. So I'm going into that. Then I'm giving a brief on the information that I've gathered. I'm also checking in with the crew, making sure seeing that they've noticed any ground risks in the operating area for the day. If anybody is feeling falling under the conditions of I'm safe and they need to address that with myself or another team lead after this briefing, during the briefing, it's up to them not to single anybody out. But those are some of the tasks. And again, just making sure that the operations are able to flow smoothly, safely, and efficiently throughout the day.
If you're an aviator at all, crewed aviator especially, a lot of things you just said are things that you do in those crewed aviation environments as well. I mean, you're checking the weather, you're making sure your NOTAMs are checked and updated, you're making sure your crew is briefed, and especially around safety. And so these themes and these aviation standard operation procedures are kind of translated to drone speak, but they're very similar to those crewed aircraft. So that's interesting. You did talk about safety being primary, the most important thing over there at Prime Air. What other tools or things do you use when you're starting your day with regard to safety?
There is a template that we file daily where we assess those we assess the risk not only for the day of but the following day as well, verifying that, again, that if there's anything that may pop up or has popped up within the last 24 hours, it's something that, again, that's constantly updated. And we have a standardized we have an SOP in place for that.
I think for our audience, it's important to understand that when you're flying as a professional in the drone industry, you don't just wing it. You're
No.
not making it up as you go. You have tools and checklists and things like this that help guide you so you don't miss something. I'm assuming there's checklists at Prime Air and other types of, whether it be paper or software tools that help guide you through these processes.
Yep. I was going to say there's checklists that we, not only as the operators go, but our ground crew that we have to, again, follow to a T on the daily. Again, like you said, the difference, while there might be a difference as far as a difference between manned aviation and unmanned aviation, the risk is still virtually the same, right? A manned aviation, you could be flying, you can be a cargo pilot, you can be a passenger pilot, and you have lives at risk because of the equipment that you're flying and operating, whether that's your own, the people that you're flying with, or the cargo that's inside of whatever you're flying. And for us, although we're not flying an aircraft that has lives on board, if we are not following our SOPs and or checks that we have in place, we can also put lives of those other individuals at risk or in jeopardy, right? So it's we have a shared airspace, so we have to treat it as though we are flying manned aircraft.
My old boss used to say, I pretend Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and we put our families on those aircraft. And if you kind of go into it with that approach, you really have that bar of safety high. Uh, we talked about training. We talked about some of the gaps, and you said there's no people. But if there was one other training module that you would add to accelerate starting on a job, because I know you have training once you get to Prime Air, but what module would you add that would help accelerate that transition from schoolhouse to workforce? Can you think of anything?
I would say adding a module about ownership would be something that I would say would make the transition a lot easier, because again, there's things that you can learn on paper, there's things that you can learn once you get to the job, but again, there's going to be a lot of things that you won't ever learn unless you take ownership of those things. You take the initiative. Okay, hey, the SOP says this. Why does it say that? Is there something that can be done to improve this to make it more efficient? Just because it's in place doesn't necessarily mean it's the best thing for the operation as a whole. Somebody else at another point in time made that decision, but things are constantly evolving. So what could have been good yesterday might not be good for tomorrow, and it's on you, as that operator, to again challenge the status quo and take ownership of the things. If it's you putting in the work on the daily, it's up to you to bring these concerns and these metrics up. I guess
Yeah,
that's
no,
what I
I
would add.
appreciate that. I like that. I think you're alluding to kind of having the ownership point. You don't just go in and sit in front of your workspace or your workstation and start flying drones. You should consistently be thinking about how can I improve the efficiency, improve safety. How can I make this easier on folks from an operational perspective? You're looking for that continuous improvement at all times because you want to own what you're doing, and I appreciate that. I think that's a great commentary to like moving from student to working professional.
Mhm.
You have a bit of a different lens, if you would, once you get there. So we have a bunch of students that are currently in our schools right now, all over the United States. What advice would you give them, or even alumni that might be watching, about maximizing their investment in that training? What advice would you give them?
Not abandon the principles that you learned um, with USI, right? Because I just went into a whole spiel about ownership. A lot of the things that USI prepares you for, it again, it all it's a building block, right? It's a foundation. These all build upon each other. So sometimes people may use, they may forget what it is that they've learned once they get the position, and it's it's again, it's something that you have to. It's almost like a marriage, right? It's something that you have to choose to do every day. You have to choose to be with this person. You have to choose to be in this industry. You have to choose again to set and raise the standard every day, and to not forget the principles that you learn when taking this course. Again, it's the course sets you up. It puts you in a great position, right? Again, it lays that foundation. But if you start to leave it, let it chip away, and replace it with things that may not be, um, I guess, good practices, that's where you start to falter or slip up within this industry, or that's where you become obsolete.
We used to consistently study our emergency procedures as a Black Hawk pilot. You might have read the same emergency procedure 100 times in your lifetime as an aviator. But the reason why we do that is we want to make sure we're doing those steps correctly every single time when we need to. And you can't do that if you read it once and never again. You know, you got to consistently be fresh and refreshing yourself on those procedures and things. And I think that's what you're talking to is like, don't take the academic side and then shelve it and think you're good to go. You got to consistently be learning and refreshing. So, what skills do you think will become critical as we move into the next phase of drone operations? I know you're specifically in delivery, but there's drones in telecom, oil and gas,
Mhm.
agriculture, construction, you know, all these different industries. What skills or critical needs do you think the drone operators like yourself will need?
If you develop the ability to not only fly but monitor one or more aircraft at one time, I feel like the way that the industry is moving, whether that's when it comes to agriculture or anything of that nature, right? We're talking about the time being of AI coming into place, and with AI, while some may view it as a thing that makes some jobs obsolete, some people are using it as a tool. So if you're able to get into a position to where you're able to maximize or use AI to your benefit in order to again fly or monitor multiple aircraft at one time, I feel as though that's the way that we're moving towards, right?
Going from one to one to one to many and having that ability to multitask is super important. And it's a good, what we need is that balance of a stress that keeps you on edge, that engages you, but doesn't overwhelm you. And it's important to understand those systems. Shout out to the AI. I mean, if we were just talking about it, those folks that have that phone tree that keeps sending you in circles, we hate those. So no, we take the shout out of that away. You guys got to get rid of that phone nonsense. But AI in general is very useful, and I think that is a skill set to learn, definitely, for those watching, understanding AI, how to use it correctly, how to get the information out that you want, but also not rely on it. It's not the end all. It's like people used to say when Wikipedia showed up, you better check the facts. Don't quote your Wikipedia. So, last question I have for you, Damarius. Thank you again for being here today. It's a great conversation. I hope our audience can see that the training that you had prepared you and gave you the skill sets necessary to go to these networking events and leverage them into the role you're at now and into the career you're at now. If a listener wants to pursue a similar role, what are some concrete steps they can do? Is Amazon hiring? Like, what can our audience do to pursue a similar role that you have?
One, I guess continually check Amazon's website, or I guess LinkedIn, and apply for positions as they open up. Second thing would be have their Part 107, as well as if they have any amount of experience, right? I know right now currently there's pilots. The ranges, it varies, right? There are pilots who are 18, 19. There are pilots who are 52. Like it's not a discriminating industry. So age and experience is something that can be taught, earned, and learned. So I would just say first thing is first is to have your Part 107, have a great work ethic, um, and then on that as well. Not only should you be a safety oriented person, but using that safety oriented person to be a customer oriented person, right? while safety is something that we pride ourselves at here at Prime Air and Amazon as a whole, our customer, right? Our customer is at the top, and while we're striving to grow within this industry, we're also striving to make life easier and better for our customers. So if you can come into it with that mindset and that attitude, then you know the door is wide open for you.
I will give a moment of advice, though, folks, that those who really want to get into the drone industry need to go where the jobs are. And so get your education, get your training, but also be prepared and open minded to a challenge of a new environment, a new scenery. Go to
Mhm.
where the job is and get into the industry. And then eventually you can go where you want to go. The industry is only going to grow. There's only going to be more opportunity. But if they currently need you in Waco, guess who should be packing up going to Waco?
That's actually a valid point. Right now, again, going back to what I said earlier in this episode, the industry is still more so in its infancy when you think about other industries to compare it to.
Yeah.
And with that, while although you may be in a place where you would love to work and live, there may not be a job opportunity in that location, right? Like for me, for example, again, last October, in I was living in South Georgia, again, Valdosta, Georgia. I was coming out of my time in the military, so I was stationed there. Went from South Georgia to getting relocated for a job in the drone industry in San Antonio, and then from San Antonio, I'm now here in Waco. So
Tropical
you
Waco.
can't be afraid, yeah, you can't be afraid to take um, you can't be afraid to take risks, and you can't be afraid to more than anything, you can't be afraid to take a chance on yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a
Um,
great call out. So, okay, seriously, last question. We got to go. It's been awesome. My 49ers are crushing it this year. Everybody gave them no chance, but guess what? We're going to do it. We're going to make it, I believe. So, what are you talking about? Dolphins or Buccaneers? Where are you at?
uh,
Assuming you like a Florida team.
I mean, no, I do like Florida teams. I'm gonna have to go with the Bucks.
Oh,
I'm
all right, a little Baker Mayfield love. I got him on my fantasy team, so I need some. I need some TDs this week, Baker, if you're watching. All right, Damarius, it's been great. It's been awesome. It's been fun. Have a great holiday week. Have a great weekend. I don't know if you're working tomorrow or not, but it's been great. And thank you for your time today. And thank you for your candid commentary. And as a USI alum, I am awesome. I am ecstatic to see your success.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. I'm ecstatic to see my success as well.
I love
But
it.
thanks. I want to thank USI for putting me in a position to where I'm able to succeed in this industry. Not too many people are afforded that opportunity. And yeah, man, I hope you have enjoy your holidays as well. And hopefully, the banana pudding that you may or may not eat has crunchy vanilla wafers. I hope.
That's it. I want those crunchy vanilla wafers and that sweet Frank Sinatra sound going through my
There you
house.
go. There you go.
Thanks, Damarius. Great conversation. For those interested in joining Amazon, go to amazon.jobs and search drones. For those interested in USI, go to flyusi.org and check out how you can grow to the next level with us. I'd like to thank all of our followers and audience for watching this season. It has been so much fun. I can't wait for next season and the fresh content that's about to come in the new year. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Have a great holiday season. Bye for now.